August 23rd, 1765. A deposed emperor sits in his crumbling palace in Allahabad, signing away the soul of a nation. We're told the British Empire conquered India through military genius and colonial ambition. That's a comforting lie. The truth is far more terrifying. India wasn't conquered by an empire. It was acquired by a corporation, not through cannons and cavalry, but through contracts and compound interest. This is the story of the world's first hostile takeover. A leveraged bee out-executed with muskets and balance sheets. The British government didn't invade India. A company called the East India Company did. And they did it because the numbers made sense. At its height, the Mughal Empire was an economic colossus that dwarfed anything Europe could imagine. The emperor sat on the peacock throne, a monument to wealth encrusted with so many diamonds and rubies that its value exceeded the entire GDP of England. The cities of Delhi and Agra teemed with more people than London and Paris combined. India produced 1/4 of the world's manufactured goods. Its textile industry was the envy of civilization. Cotton so fine it was called woven air. Silks that shimmered like liquid gold. This was not a backward nation waiting to be civilized. This was the richest market on the planet, and every European power wanted a piece of it. But India had a fatal weakness, not military, not technological, financial. The empire was drowning in its own complexity. Regional governors operated like independent warlords, each with their own armies and tax systems. The central treasury in Delhi was hemorrhaging silver to maintain a sprawling bureaucracy that stretched from Afghanistan to Bengal. When Emperor Aurangzeb died in 1707, he left behind a power vacuum and a debt crisis. The empire didn't collapse from foreign invasion. It fragmented from financial insolvency. And into that chaos walked a small group of English merchants with a revolutionary idea. They weren't looking to conquer. They were looking for return on investment. December 31st, 1600. Queen Elizabeth I grants a royal charter to 218 London merchants. They call themselves the Governor and Company of Merchants of London Trading into the East Indies. History will know them as the East India Company. The charter gives them a monopoly on all English trade east of the Cape of Good Hope. But buried in the legal text is something far more dangerous. The company has the right to acquire land, the right to mint currency, the right to raise armies, the right to wage war. This isn't a business license. It's a blueprint for a corporate state. And the structure of the company itself is revolutionary. It's a joint stock corporation with limited liability. Investors can buy shares, and if the venture fails, they only lose their investment. This innovation allows the company to raise massive amounts of capital that will be used to buy not just goods, but nations. The company's first ventures are disasters. They try to break into the Dutch spice monopoly in Indonesia and get massacred at Amboina in 1623. Dutch cannons blow English merchants out of the water. The directors in London face a choice: retreat or pivot. They choose India, not because they want to conquer it, because they need a new market to justify their existence to shareholders. When the first company's ships arrive in Surat in 1608, they are beggars knocking on the door of giants. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir looks at these pale strangers in their wool suits and laughs. He grants them permission to build small trading posts along the coast, warehouses, not fortresses. The English are tolerated the way you tolerate street vendors. They pay rent. They bow low. They know their place. For the next 100 years, the company operates like a normal business. They buy cotton and indigo and saltpeter. They pay in silver bullion shipped from London. They make a profit of maybe 5 to 10% if the ships don't sink. It's boring. It's legitimate. It's not enough. Because in London, the shareholders are getting impatient. The Dutch East India Company is returning 20% annually. The Spanish are draining gold from the Americas. The English company is being outcompeted. The directors realize they need to change the business model. They need to stop buying goods with silver. They need to start extracting goods with leverage. The opportunity comes in 1707 when the Mughal Empire begins its financial death spiral. Regional governors start declaring independence. Tax collection collapses. Armies march without pay. India descends into what historians politely call a period of instability. The company directors see something else. They see distressed assets. They see weak counterparties. They see a chance to restructure the entire subcontinent. The company starts hiring mercenaries. They fortify their warehouses into military bases. They begin making loans to local princes at predatory interest rates. When the princes can't pay, the company offers a solution. We'll protect you with our army. All you have to do is give us control of your tax collection. It's a protection racket disguised as a security agreement. June 23, 1757. A mango grove outside the village of Plassey in Bengal. This is the day a corporation becomes a sovereign power. The Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, has 50,000 soldiers and French artillery. The company has 3,000 men, led by Robert Clive, a former clerk with a genius for bribery. Clive knows he can't win a battle, so he buys the outcome. He approaches the Nawab's general, Mir Jafar, with a contract. If Mir Jafar keeps his troops out of the fight, Clive will install him as the new Nawab. The price is negotiated in advance. When the battle begins, Mir Jafar's army stands and watches. The Nawab realizes he's been sold and flees the field. Clive walks into the enemy camp without firing a shot. This isn't warfare. It's a leveraged buyout. The aftermath of Plassey reveals the company's true model. They don't annex Bengal for the British crown. They install Mir Jafar as a puppet, and then present him with the invoice. They demand £2.5 million in immediate compensation. They loot the treasury. They load riverboats with gold and jewels and send them downstream to Calcutta. Robert Clive personally takes a fortune worth £234,000, making him the richest commoner in Europe. Right. When questioned by Parliament, he says he's astonished at his own moderation. Translation: I could have taken more, but the real prize isn't the gold. It's what comes next. August 12, 1765. The deposed Mughal emperor grants the company the Diwani of Bengal. This is the legal right to collect taxes from 20 million people. Read that again. A private corporation now has the authority to tax an entire nation. They don't govern. They don't provide services. They extract. They turn the Mughal tax system into a corporate revenue stream, and the efficiency is brutal. The company replaces the old system of flexible tax collection with rigid quotas. They don't care if the monsoon fails. They don't care if the crops die. The shareholders in London expect a 10% dividend. The ledger must balance. The Great Bengal Famine. The rains fail and the harvest collapses. In the past, local rulers would have opened grain stores and lowered taxes. The company does the opposite. They raise taxes to compensate for lost revenue. They force farmers to grow opium and indigo instead of food, because cash crops have higher export margins. The people of Bengal begin to starve. They die in the fields. They die in the streets of Calcutta. The rivers clog with corpses. 1/3 of the population perishes. 10 million people. It's one of the greatest humanitarian disasters in history. And through it all, the company's ships continue loading silk and muslin for the London markets. The quarterly reports are filed on time. The dividend is paid. Back in London, the scandal erupts. Members of Parliament call the company officials nabobs, men who return from India with obscene wealth and buy their way into power. The company is bleeding the richest province in Asia, and the profits are corrupting British politics. The government realizes the company has become a systemic risk, too big to fail, too dangerous to ignore. They pass a series of regulating acts to impose oversight. They appoint a governor-general to control the directors, but they can't kill the company. The British economy is now addicted to Indian textiles and tea. Shutting down the company would trigger a financial crisis in London, so they regulate it, and the company adapts. The logic of expansion becomes inescapable. To pay for the army and the bureaucracy and the dividends, the company needs more land, more taxpayers, more markets. War becomes a line item in the budget. The company builds the finest military force in Asia. The officers are British. The soldiers are Indian sepoys, trained in European drill and discipline. The company uses Indian tax money to hire Indian soldiers to conquer more of India. It's a self-financing war machine. They march south against Tipu Sultan of Mysore. They march west against the Maratha Confederacy. The strategy is always the same. Offer protection. Extract payment. Seize territory when they default. It's a geopolitical debt trap. By 1850, the company controls more territory than the Roman Empire at its height. It has 200,000 soldiers under arms. It generates more revenue than the British government itself, but the operational costs are unsustainable. The company is constantly on the edge of insolvency. It borrows from London banks. It issues bonds. It prints its own currency. It's running a massive deficit hidden behind the illusion of dominance. And beneath the surface, the Indian soldiers are growing restless. The sepoys are the backbone of the company's power. They are professional soldiers, many from high castes, who have fought loyally for decades, but they are paid less than British soldiers. They are passed over for promotion. They watch the company disrespect their religions and traditions. They see the British officers treat them with contempt. The tension has been building for years. All it needs is a spark. January 1857. The company introduces the Enfield rifle. To load it, soldiers must bite off the end of a paper cartridge. A rumor spreads through the barracks. The cartridges are greased with cow and pig fat. To Hindus, the cow is sacred. To Muslims, the pig is unclean. The soldiers believe the company is deliberately trying to destroy their religions so they can be converted to Christianity. The British officers dismiss their concerns. They order the sepoys to use the cartridges or face court-martial. It's a catastrophic management failure. May 10th, 1857. The garrison at Meerut mutinies. The sepoys killed their British officers. They marched to Delhi and proclaimed the old Mughal emperor as the leader of a rebellion. The great uprising spreads like wildfire across northern India. Entire regiments turn on their commanders. The company's authority collapses in days. For the first time in a century, the corporation faces an existential threat, not from a rival power, from its own employees. The rebellion is savage, massacres on both sides. British families trapped in Lucknow and Kanpur. The company retaliates with a brutality that shocks even its allies. They blow rebels from cannons, they burn villages. They hang thousands from roadside trees. The British press calls it a race war. The truth is simpler. It's a labor dispute that turned into a revolution. And the company wins, not through superior morality, through superior logistics. They have the telegraph. They have steamships. They can coordinate reinforcements from across Asia. The rebels are brave but disorganized. By 1858, the rebellion is crushed. But the cost is unbearable. The British public is horrified by the violence. They realize that a private corporation cannot be trusted with the power of life and death over millions of people. The shareholders are terrified. The company's stock crashes. The debt is insurmountable. On August 2, 1858, Parliament passes the Government of India Act. The company is nationalized. Its territories, its armies, its debts are transferred to the British Crown. Queen Victoria becomes Empress of India. The company is dissolved. June 1, 1874. The East India Company ceases to exist as a legal entity. The stock is liquidated. The ledgers are closed. The corporation that owned a nation dies with a whimper. But its legacy is immortal. The company invented the modern playbook for globalization. It proved that a small group of men in a boardroom could control resources on the other side of the world. It showed how political power could be purchased and how laws could be rewritten to serve capital. It demonstrated that the most efficient form of exploitation is not a king with a sword, but a CEO with a balance sheet. When we look at the world today, we see the ghosts of the East India Company in every quarterly earnings call. Multinational corporations with revenues larger than most nations. Private military contractors operating in war zones. Lobby groups writing legislation. Supply chains that span continents. The company was the prototype. It was the alpha test for global capitalism. And it taught the world a lesson we're still learning. Sovereignty is solvency. If you control the money, you control the government. If you control the trade routes, you control the future. The company built cities like Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras. It connected the markets of Asia with Europe. It brought tea and textiles to the masses. But it also proved that a corporation is a machine without conscience. It cannot feel guilt. It cannot feel mercy. If the spreadsheet says starve a province to meet quarterly targets, the machine will starve them. If the contract says wage war to protect market share, the machine will wage war. The company didn't conquer India for glory or God or country. It conquered India because the return on investment justified the risk. The men who gathered in that London office in 1600 didn't set out to be villains. They set out to make money for their investors. And in doing so, they created a template for corporate power that dominates our world. The financial district of London today stands on foundations built by the East India Company. The stock exchanges, the insurance syndicates, the global trade networks, they all trace their lineage back to those early merchant adventurers. We live in the world they built, a world where capital flows freely across borders, and where the corporation is the most powerful institution on earth. So the next time you hear a company talk about maximizing shareholder value, remember the East India Company. Remember that its motto was Auspicio Regis et Senatus Angli, under the auspices of the King and Parliament of England. It claimed to serve the nation, but in reality it served only the bottom line. It was the corporation that owned a country, and in the end it taught the world that the invisible hand of the market sometimes holds a sword. History is not shaped by the speeches of kings or the courage of soldiers. It is shaped by the people who control the ledger. The East India Company understood this better than anyone. They turned an entire civilization into a line item on a balance sheet. They proved that conquest is not about territory. It's about cash flow. And they showed us that the most dangerous empire is not the one that plants a flag, but the one that signs a contract. If you found this story eye-opening, subscribe to this channel, because the forces that shaped history are still at work today. The names have changed, the tactics have evolved, but the game remains the same. Those who understand how money moves through the world will always be ahead of those who don't. The East India Company may be gone, but the model they created is alive and well. And the next chapter of this story is being written right now in boardrooms and trading floors around the globe. Don't be the one who learns the lesson too late. Hit that subscribe button and stay ahead of history, because the ledger never lies.